Oh, so you're caught up on Game of Thrones?
Totally caught up on Game of Thrones. It only took like a month.
All right.
Excuse me.
Well, I mean, I guess that's a little bit. Oh, we're already live. I can't believe you have not watched Stranger Things. This is upsetting me that you're telling me this right before we go on the air. Neither of you have watched this. Do you just hate television?
Yeah, awful.
I really dislike television.
Really? That's what it is? And you
Yeah.
just finished Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And you guys are...
I started Game of Thrones like 2 months ago, and I finished it like 2 weeks ago.
You binge watched the entire
I binge
thing in
watched
2
the
months?
entire thing.
All right,
slammed
I'll give
through
you credit for
series.
that.
Yeah.
That is a lot. That's
Yeah.
a lot.
It was hefty.
Oh my God.
It's
You've
funny
seen so many
because
people die in 2 months?
For a while, people would start talking about Game of Thrones, and Brad would just like flip out in the office. He'd be like,
Well, it's because Ryan would every day he'd turn to me and be like, well, you see like what happened last night, and you just like go off about it. And I was like, I don't watch that show.
All right, well, now I want to ruin Stranger Things for you, but I won't. But you need to watch it.
I will.
You have
Okay.
1 week.
I do actually
One
plan
week.
to watch it.
By next
All
week,
right.
yeah.
Let's get ready to do our show. So hello, everyone who's tuning in. This is Close to the Metal. This is our weekly show where we go in depth into more computing subjects. We kind of hone in on one subject and go in on that. And today is going to be our review of the Microsoft Xbox One S. And we've got one here in studio with us. I'm Greg Nibbler, your host, and we want to get your questions. We want to know your thoughts. I'm sure there's a lot of opinions about this, about what you have with it, your thoughts so far. It just came out. We're going to go in depth on some things, but go ahead and post your comments in there if you're watching via YouTube. And let's see who we've got here with us today, as usual. To my right,
Brad Burke.
Brad Burke.
and Matt Smith.
And Matt Smith. All right, guys. The star of the show, though, is right here on this table, which we actually have one.
It's the Acer.
The Acer.
Oh, sorry.
It's not the Starbucks double espresso shot. Not a sponsor, so we'll block that out. All right, so Xbox, though, right here. We've got it. This is the brand new one. You guys have had your hands on this. Matt, you just wrote a huge review of it. Let's kind of take a look here right now just at the physical side of it. It is drastically different compared to the previous Xbox, which came out 3 years ago. Definitely, it looks sleeker, maybe would be the right word. How do you guys feel about it so far? Like appearance-wise,
I think aesthetically, I think it's a huge improvement. I hate to be that guy, but the original Xbox One is sort of an ugly machine. Like it was just sort of like, here's the black box that everything goes into.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of even like the Xbox 360. I think the couple renditions of that were, at least a system that feels like it was designed with like some thought into like its aesthetic appeal.
Yeah.
I thought the Xbox One S or Xbox One when it first came out looked all right, but I think it aged really quickly because it was so big, and this is a little bit smaller, although we'll get into the fact that it's not that much smaller.
Yeah.
But what I really like about it is, and these are the kind of like design traits that I really pay attention to, is like all this like these dots that they're using instead of like slats. Like they kind of are reminiscent of pixels, and I think are really fitting for a game console to use that instead of like vertical slats or whatever.
Right.
So.
Which we have the other one here. Maybe we should pull it out and just kind of show.
Yeah, let's do that because one of the big things
difference.
was Microsoft said that the Xbox One S is 40% smaller.
Yeah, and I've been seeing that everywhere. I've been reading reviews online and their press releases too.
Yeah.
I would not say that is 40%. I mean, maybe if you got really technical about it, but compared to what they're showing, it's not really that big of a difference.
Well, we were laughing about it because we were looking at that video they posted where they have like a outline of a box and then an outline of like the Xbox. There you go. And so that's maybe not quite accurate,
All
right? Like
mathematically, I'm not really sure if that lines up with what we've got right here.
The way that looks, it almost looks like the Xbox One S should come to about here. That it should be like half the width, like the disk drive alone.
I thought it would be like that when it arrived because admittedly I had not prior to the fact done a lot of like looking at because there were already comparison photos from E3.
Right.
I hadn't actually went and looked at those particular photos, so I was surprised.
I mean, that picture that they had, it makes it look like it's a tablet size compared to what it actually
It looks
is.
like a Wii or something.
Yeah.
Like in terms of scale, like it should be like the width of the disk drive. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And let's get the PS4 out.
Yeah, let's do the
well.
full comparison here.
Because, this sort of goes to show that the Xbox is really just like caught up, to PlayStation more or less. Like, so the PS4, like, it's not as wide. It's actually not as wide as the Xbox One
Yeah.
S. It is Also, I think it's a little bit shorter on this dimension, and the only thing is that it's like deeper, so it goes further back in your cabinet, which probably doesn't matter the most. Like that's probably the dimension that matters the least for most people, I think. Maybe not, but that would be my impression. So, on a whole, like they've only really kind of caught up the PlayStation on that.
It almost feels like this is what it should have been from the get-go, especially when now that especially that I'm looking in the side grills of the original Xbox One, I'm noticing that there is extra room in there sort of like for what looks like cooling, and that it almost just seems like they took the outer layers off this and improved the cooling a bit. Although the power supply is integrated into this one now.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the quoted reduction in size. And again, like I think the new Xbox One S looks fantastic. It's my favorite console design-wise.
Really? Better than the PS4?
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the PS4.
The angle design is a very divisive.
Yeah,
we were talking about that before the show too. I actually do like it. I think it's a little more creative, even if it is a little odd. But I've never had any issues with the fact that it's angled, and it actually I think helps with discs and the USB ports in the front.
For me, it's just aesthetically the angle in the back. Like I'm fine with the angle in the front of the PS4. The angle in the back just bothers me for some reason because I want it to press up against, press back. Yeah, I don't know why. That just
it is odd.
I don't
that
like
the
it.
ports are vertical and the back is like this.
That actually annoys me when I'm trying to plug something.
You have to kind of like lift it up.
That's exactly it. Yeah, because I can never see back there. I'm always just fiddling around.
Oh, see, I was saying mine sits sideways under my TV, so the angles are much more pronounced when you're looking at it from the side.
Yeah.
But I can just lean around the side and like plug stuff in or access this.
All right, a couple of questions that are coming through, and we're going to take questions too throughout this as we go through the review and talk about the different aspects. But one question is the Xbox One S available in black? And I don't believe it is. I think it's just this color, just one color.
Not yet. I mean, I'm sure it will be. And
Yeah.
I know they already showed a Gears of War 4 edition. I don't know if the pre-order for that is live yet or not, but it's like red with like some scars in it and stuff like that. So, of course, they're going to do different versions. But
but currently,
right now, this is
that's the only one you can get. Okay, so we're taking a look at the physical side of it and seeing what we've got there. Let's go ahead and go through kind of internally. What are the differences? What are the big changes they've made with this? It's been 3 years. What do we have with this, with the One S?
The big change that users are going to notice functionally is the support for 4K output, native 4K output. So that's actually like a confusing thing for a lot of people because, if you had an Xbox One and you hooked it up to your 4K TV, it would still play. But, it would be doing 1080p output. So things might be stretched, a little weird sometimes, and you couldn't play 4K content on the old one because it just didn't output 4K, anything more than 1080p. This does handle 4K, so you get that on the interface. Looks really sharp. And also, the big thing for a lot of people is going to be Ultra HD Blu-ray support. And that is something that if you want to play Ultra HD Blu-rays, you have to buy a player that's going to support that. And those are all the same price or more expensive than the Xbox One S.
So you might as well get an Xbox One S if
Right.
you're going to get that anyway.
Right. Some gamers might remember the PlayStation 3 when it came out with the Blu-ray player. It was actually cheaper than pretty much any of the Blu-ray players at the time. So it was sort of this weird situation where it was like, you just get a console, and it's actually a better option than the Blu-ray players. And that seems to kind of repeated itself again with the Xbox One S.
Okay. So I guess that's definitely a bonus, coming out from.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people have 4K TVs yet, but if
and that's the other thing. Like, I guess if you're planning on getting one, again, if it's the same price, you might as well go with this.
Yeah.
But gaming-wise, does that really make a whole lot of difference?
Well, so the 4K output, it doesn't apply to gaming.
Yeah.
So basically, games that run on consoles, they are set to run at a certain locked resolution. Well, not always locked. Some of them do this weird thing where they upscale resolution dynamically based on available performance. But we're not going to get into that. Basically, there's a resolution the game runs at.
Gotcha.
Oftentimes, that might not even be 1080p, particularly on the Xbox One. There's been a lot of 1600 by 900 frame buffers to kind of like increase performance. And this does native 4K output. but it doesn't render the game at a different resolution. It's just outputting it.
Just putting it out as that. Yeah.
You know, at that 4K resolution through upscaling,
Okay.
etc. Now, that's, maybe the bad news if you were expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is that there's not any quality difference that I could notice in that upscaling. Like, you play Xbox games on a 1080p set, you play them on a 4K set, and they're going to both look really great.
Okay.
And I played Hyper Light Drifter on this for a while, which is like a pixel art game.
Yeah.
And those don't always do well with scaling, but it looked really crisp, really nice. So I think that if you got a 4K set, it's gonna do pretty well for you.
But if you don't have a 4K set, what other advantages are there really over the previous Xbox?
Well, it's got high dynamic range, and I'm not really familiar with how often that's found on 1080p sets.
Yeah,
but
not very often
really at all.
Yeah, not at all. So I mean, that's another feature it has.
So but again, that's something that's only a specific, very small number of people are going to be able to actually take advantage of.
So aside from that, there is actually a performance increase in the GPU. A slight bump in clock speed is around 10%. And that's not really going to make a huge difference. And again, your games are not going to render at higher detail. They're not going to render at a higher resolution. They're going to render whatever they were coded to render at.
And then that's it, and that's all you're getting.
But you might have a situation where there's a little less stutter, or you have 2 or 3 extra frames per second, and that might make the game look a little smoother.
Okay.
And on the other hand, some games it's not going to have any difference at all. So
I mean, I got to be honest. So far, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of wow factor. Big difference here between what's previously had. I mean, appearance wise, definitely looks like they've improvements on that aesthetically, and the 4K adaptation. But other than that, I mean, is there? And it's slightly faster. It doesn't seem like after 3 years there should be some more. Some kind of big bang to it.
I don't think this is the kind of console that anyone who already owns an Xbox One is likely to buy.
Yeah.
I think this is more just their ability to the price was dropping too quickly on the Xbox One and the bundles, and this is a good way to sort of refresh it, make it smaller, add that a little bit of functionality for people who do have 4K TVs, and possibly, it was targeted to beat that price point and sell it as an Ultra HD Blu-ray player. But I think this is just their way of if you haven't bought an Xbox One yet and you aren't willing to wait for the Scorpio, then this is your option. Rather than they're just going to push the other one under the rug and pretend it never happened.
Or the PlayStation Neo comes out in this fall. Yeah. So I mean that's another thing. So I guess maybe they're just trying to get that in there. If you don't want to wait for that, we got something right now here for you. Yeah. That you can get. All right.
That was actually a criticism we had in the review. And you bring up a really good point, Greg, that there's not a lot of wow factor that bring people who might already have an Xbox or a PlayStation 4 into this console. And that is a problem because the PlayStation Neo is expected in October. We don't know that officially, but there are so many rumors and leaks about it at this point that it's looking extremely likely. And that console is going to be way faster, than this is. And it's not coming out that much longer from now. It's coming out before the holiday season. So a lot of people are going to be shopping Xbox One S versus PlayStation Neo. We don't know how much the PlayStation Neo is going to be. It might be a fair bit more expensive. But whatever the case, it's going to be the situation where Xbox One S is against either PlayStation 4, the original, which is already faster by a bit than the Xbox One S, and will probably be competitively priced, or PlayStation Neo, which is going to be a lot faster, and does the 4K stuff and the HDR stuff. So it's not a great position right now for Xbox One S.
Well, let's move on to one other side of it, too. And again, if you're watching via YouTube or even if you're listening via podcast and want to send in your questions, you can do that, too. But if you're watching right now, go ahead and pop your questions there into the comments, and we'll get to those as we go through. But something else, that is specific to this is the compatibility with Windows and how they're trying to start bringing the crossover a little bit more. How does this fit into that?
Let's talk about Cortana first.
Okay, you want to go to Cortana? Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the big features.
Well, then with Cortana, I can say this. I read some of the comments. There were some people who were very divisive about the Cortana, whether or not it was an improvement or whether it actually works well or not. So, all right, let's go into the Cortana side of it then.
Yeah, so Cortana is here, finally.
Yeah.
And, it does some things, but not really as much as you might expect. Basically, like, Cortana, of course, is digital assistant. You can talk to it, and it will take your input and, translate the things that capabilities on the system. It can do things like open an app, search your friends list.
Search Bing.
You can search Bing. It is extreme.
Will loves searching Bing.
Oh, still a thing.
As usually, it's extremely good at searching Bing and bringing up results you probably didn't want. But on the other hand, I was really surprised to find that it can't, for example, look at your calendar or meetings that you have scheduled through Cortana on your Windows 10 system. And it actually, like, it's not like it doesn't come up. Like, a message literally comes up that says, like, sorry, you can only do that on Windows 10 PC or Windows Phone.
But why would they not put that into this?
I don't know.
I have to wonder whether
if
it's
you've
like,
already got the platform made, why would you not just throw that in there? That seems like something that seems like one of the most important things you would use Cortana for. And I don't really use it. Don't really utilize it myself.
The only thing I can think of is that the Xbox is supposed to be something that sits in your living room, right? And if you have other people in your house or family members, you might not want them like going through being able to like sit down at your Xbox and pick up a controller and like, oh, cancel all my meetings for the next 3 years.
Oh, that's true.
Like, but then again, like, the whole thing is it's got user accounts, just like the other one does. So you could have everyone logging into their own accounts and everything. But
and you could always flip a setting for that too. I mean, sure. So it seems like a weird omission. I think that it's divisive because, like the scenarios for using it are kind of like hard to describe. And that's a problem with all digital assistants is that in theory, like talking to your computer is supposed to be really intuitive, but they're not that smart. So actually, they can only do a little bit of things, and you have to say things in the language that they understand, and if you don't, they don't get it.
Yeah.
So there's sort of like this hidden code language of talking to your system and understanding what it can do, and some people get that, or the capabilities fit what they want to do, and they love it, but a lot of people, I think, don't get it, or the capabilities aren't what they want to do, and then it's just they never use it.
Yeah.
And then I think it's hard because once you get in the habit of not using it, then it's kind of hard to get in the habit of ever going back and trying it again. My overall impression was that Cortana just is not really going to make a big splash right now on the Xbox One S. I think the main thing people will use it for is quick access to the friends list, and that will be about it.
Yeah. So really, again, not a big, huge impact for a lot of people. And if you are watching right now, let us know. Maybe that is a big deal for you if you're using Cortana.
Yeah.
I do have one thing just to backtrack to what we were talking about earlier. It's being asked, is Neo meant to be, or Scorpio going to be the competitor for Neo? Is that its intended purpose?
Yeah, the Scorpio that's coming out next year sometime or late next year, I think they said, is a performance upgrade.
That's going to be the big upgrade.
They keep saying 4K gaming and best quality pixels and all that. But.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Cortana. Any other thoughts on that though? Back to
Cortana.
Yeah, back to Cortana. Just to jump in there.
I was wondering. I mean, I didn't get a chance to play with Cortana too much on it. I know the Xbox One has multitasking support. Could you use her to say, like, while you're playing a game, if you had, I know we talked about the mic, the fact that it doesn't include, like, a headset or anything means that it's hard to, like, talk to her. But if you did, could you say, like, be in the middle of a game of Forza and be like, hey, open a Twitch stream, or, like, have something else come up on the side, or is there...
Yeah, it appeared to do that in all my testing. It's like, it comes up in, like, a side window.
Okay.
And that can be alongside whatever you're doing. Although I did notice that it was a little weird sometimes. Like, I don't know if I want to say glitchy, but sometimes I would like bring it up and it would take me to the settings page, like with Cortana there, by it. And I was like, I didn't understand why it was taking me to the page because I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So it was a little...
So even if it's working, but it's not really even taking you where you want to go.
It's more like I wanted Cortana, and then it also delivered a settings page when I was on another part of the menu, and it seemed I didn't understand why it was doing that.
Yeah. Windows 10 kind of does that too, though. Sometimes if it has like Cortana change something, or it'll when you try and use it, it'll pop up and be like, "Whoa, you actually hold on. Did you know that now we can book a hotel for you?"
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, let's use that to go into Windows 10. So, what we were going to talk about with the compatibility factor, where Xbox is they're trying to work towards having it, cross-platform where you can use it on anything. How does this provide any improvements or any more compatibility for Windows 10 than what previously we had? Brad, do you have any thoughts on that? Like,
I didn't. I mean, I think
Matt.
you would have better.
Well, the Xbox One S doesn't do it. This itself doesn't do anything that makes it more compatible with Windows, really.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Microsoft is really using it, I think, smartly. They're kind of doing like this whole like burst right now. It's like we've got Xbox One S, and then we have our Xbox One Summer Update, and that goes on all the Xboxes. So like Cortana goes on the old Xboxes too.
Yeah.
And then also we've got Windows 10 and Windows 10 Anniversary Edition, and then like in a few weeks it's Windows Phone getting updated too, and there's all this stuff going on. It's like summer of Microsoft. And so there's nothing about the Xbox One S. You don't need to buy this to get like enhanced compatibility with Windows 10. It's an update coming out to all the consoles, and some of the things that you're having, for example, is like they're really focusing on the way that you can purchase things, and just interact with Xbox Live in general through your Xbox app on Windows 10. So like now you can bring up your Xbox app, and I did this a few times, and I looked around a lot in the store. And I really liked this part of it was you can go in your Xbox app on Windows 10, buy an app, or a game more likely, and it will go straight to your Xbox and start downloading it. It does that immediately. There's no delay, and that's just really convenient. PlayStation 4 they've had sort of similar things with like an online store and an app, but those honestly are not anywhere near as intuitive or easy to use as the app on Windows 10. Microsoft is a software company,
Which makes sense.
In instances like this, it shows like their just general software is a lot better there. And yeah, it's cool too to like manage your Xbox friends, and see your feed of stuff on Windows 10, because a computer is just a better way of interacting with an interface than a gamepad.
Sure.
And you can fit a lot of information on there. You can multitask with other stuff. So I think a fair amount of people, once they realize that they have this capability, will sit there with their laptop when they fire up their Xbox console, and why buy the game on the console? That'll take longer. It's more of a hassle. Why would I like want to like
try to type something out? Yeah.
Okay, I got to find my gamer. I want to make this guy my friend. So G A M. Like, no, you can just do that on your Xbox Live, and it's a lot quicker. So I think that's a really cool part of the integration.
Okay, Brad, what do you think?
I think it's a good start. I think it's like adding that kind of support from the PC side makes using it a lot easier, which is something that I actually do with my PlayStation. I do go on their site and I browse games there, especially because after what happened with them, which we won't get into, I don't attach a payment account to my PlayStation account. So when I buy something, I either have to enter a card then or go on Amazon and buy a gift card. So I end up just using the computer most of the time, and it makes life easier. But and I'm glad to see that kind of functionality is coming to the Xbox. And I do think, we talked about apps, that you were having trouble getting apps to install from your computer to the device. Did you ever work that out, or was it still kind of...
I don't think I was having any trouble getting apps to install on the Xbox One S. The only thing that is sort of like still not there is that, Microsoft keeps talking about their universal Windows platform, right? And the idea is that you can make apps for any Windows device and sort of easily port them between them. Like basically you make apps for Windows in all forms, and then you can just kind of tweak them.
Yeah, which in theory that's a great concept.
But the problem is that there's still like these barriers. So, you're still like, for example, buying stuff on the Xbox Store for Xbox, right? In the Xbox app on Windows 10, and not on the Windows Store. And there's not really a lot of apps on the Xbox Store. And most of the apps that are there are things like Skype or MSN Weather.
Yeah,
I heard that the Weather Channel app might be there soon. But the
that's a big
vast majority of apps are either streaming video content, which you would expect,
right,
or they're first party apps from Microsoft.
What kind of apps would you like to see in there? in the store? What kind of things do you think?
I
that
think
would work
I
well?
mean I think weather apps would be really cool. I think calendar apps would be really cool.
Social media.
Yeah,
would be
social
nice.
media.
I mean, maybe a lot of people.
I mean,
don't do
are
that,
weather
but I
apps
like
that
having it.
big of a facet that?
Well, I guess with the way the interface works on the Xbox, it seems like it could be more useful because you can kind of have little widgets. So it could
Right.
just be like you boot up your
Yeah.
Xbox in the morning and
It
like, oh,
just
there's
tells
my
you,
weather
yeah.
and here's
Right.
well, I guess you don't get calendar invites. Because that does seem like a barrier. One of the things I feel like they try and push with this is it's like a home everything device,
Yeah.
and it's like your reminders and stuff. But
Yeah.
without that in Cortana, it would be nice to just like an Xbox in rest mode or whatever, and you just in the morning you
Yeah.
walk by and it's like, oh yeah, like there's the weather and I have a thing and I got to respond to that email. And
Right. Okay. Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
To have it in that. Aspect.
Yeah, so I mean that's how it's supposed to work in theory, but in practice, there's actually not really much for apps on Xbox, and the rollout's been really slow for that. And that points, I think, to a general complaint that I have with the Xbox One's entire lifespan, which is that I don't think Microsoft has done nearly enough to leverage things from PC to Xbox. Like everything, so there's all kinds of cool things you can do Xbox to PC, like the game streaming, for example. You can stream games from your Xbox to your PC if someone's using the television. You want to go play Halo. You can do that on your computer now. But there's not you can't do that the other direction. There's not there's not stuff from your PC that shows up on Xbox. Like I mentioned, Cortana not showing calendar invites and etc. We don't have a lot of these apps that are on PC showing up on Xbox, and I just think that's really weird because this is basically a computer.
Yeah.
It has AMD processors capable of running the same code as any PC. Its GPU is pretty similar to any PC.
Why do you think that is that they haven't incorporated more of the PC aspects into it?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe Microsoft's scared about basically competing with those PC OEMs. If you could turn your Xbox One S into a PC that does PC things, then people probably wouldn't buy as many Dell, Inspirons.
Okay.
So maybe they're afraid of that. Maybe it's a little bit harder than we think to flip that switch, and Microsoft hasn't been able to put as much resources to it as it could. But
there's an ease of use level to it too, I think, where people want to buy a console, plug it into their TV, and off they go. And if you just have Windows 10 on this out of the box, people aren't going to have that same experience unless you really water down the interface into something very big and blocky, which they tried once on a desktop operating system and it didn't go so well. It's but it is if one of these could run x64 apps, if I could install Steam on this, it'd be a no-brainer. I'd buy that. I'd play my my Rocket Leagues and my Stardew Valley.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd be off and rolling.
That's something that frustrates me. I would buy an Xbox One if it could stream apps or it could stream gaming from my PC. That would be amazing.
This thing was a Steam
Do you
link
think
too?
that the Scorpio is going to allow for something like that? No.
I don't think it's not a hardware problem. I
Yeah.
think it's a software issue. So
And especially they've shown that they're trying to, with the Rocket League crossplay too, as an example, they really, PC gamers love Steam and Windows doesn't want to be a part of it to a certain extent. Although there have been some news about maybe Quantum Break and games like that making their way onto Steam. But I think they want to have control of that platform. And for a number of reasons too, I think, it's really easy to prevent cheating on Xbox One. Overwatch is banning PC players all the time, but what are you going to do with an Xbox as soon as you tinker with it? Red flags are going off everywhere saying this Xbox is tampered with.
Yeah.
And if you can just install x86 apps, you've got people playing, Halo and running trigger bots, and
Right.
it's a whole new problem.
All right. Well, what about price-wise on this? What does it come in at?
the one that we reviewed, this is 2 terabyte model, is $400.
$400. Okay.
But August 23rd, they're coming out with the 500 gigabyte model, and that's $300. And what's really nice about that one is it includes the Halo Master Chief Collection and Halo 5.
Nice. With it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
So
a pretty good
that's a pretty sweet bundle.
Yeah.
I think a 500 gigabyte hard drive might be a little small for some users, because that would be like 8 or 9 big games. So some people might not like that, but as long as the hard drive size doesn't ward you off, it's a really good way to get in on the Xbox ecosystem.
So overall, what do you think as far as purchasing this? Like, do you think it would be for you personally? Would you wait for the Neo to come out, or if you had to pick one or the other, or would you go with this 1S?
If you're a gamer, if you talk to people about how you're a gamer, then you probably should wait for a Neo.
Yeah.
And this doesn't really move the dial on that sort of split that like gamers tend to prefer PlayStation right now. I think where this is really attractive is as a sort of home theater appliance because, hey, like not everyone that plays games these days is a gamer necessarily. A lot of people play a game a couple times a week or, every now and then after they get home from a hard day at work, or they just want to do some couch games with their family.
Yeah.
And here you have a box for as little as $300 that can do 4K output, can play Ultra HD Blu-ray. It has really nice compatibility with Windows 10, and it plays games. And maybe it doesn't play them as high a resolution or quite the same performance as a PlayStation 4 or an upcoming Neo. But hey, if you're not like a gamer, you might not even really notice. You might not care. You can really get down to fine-grained details when you're looking at comparisons between consoles. But my experience has been that a lot of people who aren't just like hardcore gamers look at them, and one will be running like, if you get a game running 30 FPS and one running 60 FPS, they'll be like, I don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Whereas like experienced PC gamers, we'll just like rage all day, like, how can you not notice the difference? It's so obvious. But those will be like, I don't know. And so $300 box. It's pretty inexpensive.
That's a pretty good deal.
So that's where I see it positioning, and I think that's kind of how Microsoft wants to position it right now. They want to get in as not just the gaming device, but as something you're going to do all kinds of entertainment on. That's why it has an IR blaster, so it can control the devices, for example.
They also have right now, at least, I think console exclusivity for titles is not a good thing in general, but I will say the Xbox has the better exclusive titles right now between Halo and Gears of War. If you want to play those games, that's where you play them, unless you want to buy them for Xbox and play them on your PC.
Yeah, and also for me, Forza. I really like Forza. I've almost, but now I can do that on my PC.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we go. Let's see. We just a couple of quick last questions here. Has it been confirmed Oculus Rift would be the VR headset for Scorpio?
Who knows?
So yeah, I think
they don't even think
too far out to know.
Have they even
much on
confirmed that there's VR? I think they kind of like hinted that there might be some kind
I
of.
would think they'd have to.
I think that's a rumor people have run with.
Yeah.
So it's not like we don't know.
If it were going to be one, I would guess that. I guess if it's compatibility with one, it'll probably be the Rift because of the controller and everything. But there's just really no way of.
Yeah, a little too soon on that one.
It does have an HDMI out though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would guess Scorpio would be. I mean, that would just make sense. But who knows? We'll find out. But all right, I think that about wraps it up for today. So this is Close to the Metal. So this is our weekly show where we go in depth with computing topics and all kinds of different things. And we love having you guys tune in. So if you're watching this afterward, go ahead and leave your comments in there. Leave questions on the YouTube video. If you're listening via podcast, you can send us questions, podcast@digitaltrends.com. And we will be back next week with another episode.